Welcome to the Shabby And Man podcast. We are partners, parents, podcasters, broadcasters,
and everything else in between. Adab, Sasrikal, Swagatam, Namaste, hello.
Now we are starting this episode of the Shabby And Man podcast on a high. Would you like to tell people why?
Because we got nominated at the Asian Media Awards for Best Podcast. We're one of the finalists. We're in the shortlist.
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
It is fantastic because there are so many wonderful podcasts out there. To be nominated with 5 other amazingly talented people, to be on a shortlist, to be recognized by the Asian Media Awards is absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, it feels absolutely wonderful.
Well, saying that, this is not the first time you've been to these awards. I believe you've been nominated a couple of times before for Best Radio Presenter, Best Radio Show. We won't actually go into whether you won or not.
That's right.
That's a different story.
This is my third nomination in a different category, in 3 different categories. I'm clearly acing the nominations game, but yeah, I think it is exciting to be recognized for the work you do, because everyone works really hard, whether it is for a radio show or for a podcast, you know.
But you have been up on stage.
I have been up on stage 3 times, actually, alongside my team, because we were voted Station of the Year, which was extremely thrilling. So, yeah, in about a month's time, we'll know whether or not we won. But it's good to be in great company, and it's good to be among people who are doing such great, rolling out such great podcasts.
So we thought this is the time to say our thank yous now only, just in case, you know.
Who would you like to thank?
Well, that was a very backhanded compliment you're trying to give yourself. Yes, obviously, I would like to thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you. But besides that, of course, those who listen to us around the world, those who support us, family, friends.
Obviously, I'm kidding. We want to thank all of you. That's you, yes, you, that tune in. Thank you so, so much.
And we're also, I think, extremely lucky to be in a position where there are so many wonderful podcasts all across the world to inspire us. When we first got into this, you know, I realized this, especially so on my sabbatical, that a lot like writing, I think podcasting is an extremely isolating experience. It's just the 2 of us. It's microphone. We are talking about things that resonate with us. We're talking about things that interest us. हमें लगता है कि जिन चीज़ों के बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं, दूसरों को भी उनमें दिलचस्पी होगी, उसके बारे में सुनने में मजा आएगा.
It's very solitary, like the solitary cyclist.
Like a Sherlock Holmes story, absolutely, the solitary cyclist. So when we actually put this out, we're not quite sure how others are going to perceive what we have spoken about, but it's always tremendously
gratifying.
Obviously,
I realize because of your radio background, you get instant feedback.
Yeah,
with listeners calling in, people texting. This doesn't happen on this.
The adrenaline rush comes from live radio because it is interactive, and what you've said you cannot unsay. That is the buzz. But of course, podcasting takes you to
You can edit. We don't. What we've said,
yeah,
we can't unsay as well. But
yes.
That's just because we're lazy. Otherwise, we would.
Yeah, and I think there's what gives us a buzz, I think, as podcasters is primarily the fact that we can talk to people around the world. Just as we enjoy listening to podcasts from all across the world, similarly, I'll give you an example. You know, we posted a very short clip of a podcast that we did on the 19th of July.
No, डेट भी याद है.
हाँ, डेट याद है क्योंकि आज तक उस पर लाइक्स और शेयर्स आ रहे हैं. It was the first one we recorded after England lost the Euro 2020 finals against Italy. And to this day, I kid you not, it was a very short clip that I put up on my personal Facebook page, because let's face it, Shabby And Man social media needs a lot to be desired, leaves a lot to be desired.
Social media game needs to back up a bit.
You mean we have a social media game?
Technically we do, yeah.
पहली बार पता चल रहा है. But you know, that short clip that I put up on my Facebook page, that I posted on my page, has got some 244 shares already. And these are people who we've not met, people who we will probably never meet. But it's so wonderful to know कि हम यहाँ पे अपने घर में लंदन में बैठ के जो बातें कर रहे हैं, there are people across the world.
It's connecting with someone somewhere.
Someone somewhere. And as you very pertinently pointed out, that analytics also tell us, you know, give us the pockets where certain episodes are heard more than others. So you pointed out that it was a lot of our listeners.
It was in Africa.
were in Africa.
That's right.
And we can see why, because, we were talking about the black players in the English national team who got a massive backlash after England lost and all the rest of it. So thank you all so much. Jahan bhi aap baith ke sun rahe hain, doesn't matter where you are listening to us, the fact that you are and the fact that you are supporting us, that means the world to us.
And I know it's slightly limiting because we do speak Yama in Hindi, which means that our audience can't really be that big. But I think it's big enough.
I think people get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Right? As someone pointed out, English is the richest language in the world because it has nearly 500,000 words. We speak primarily in English, so we are hoping for a wide audience. That's our thank you speech done, right?
Right. There's just one more thing I'd like to add, which makes our nomination that much sweeter. It's the fact that this was the first time they've ever introduced the podcast category.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's red carpet chatter all done, because that's what award shows are all about. Let's talk about some other interesting things we did since we last recorded an episode.
We've been out and about this week quite a lot.
Yeah. And let me talk about a happy twist of fate, I should say. 2 years ago, an exclusive wallpaper company headquartered here in London called Digone. They happened to buy my father's ancestral house in Calcutta. We'd not even heard of them before that. And I remember my father, I think, gave you the task to find out whether it was a genuine person, company, who they were, what they did, and all of that. And in the last 2 years, since they've acquired the house, we've come to know the family, we've come to know the brand. And
we've heard so much about them.
Yeah. It's, they specialize in what they call chinoiserie designs, I believe, and especially Japanese, Korean motifs and French-inspired.
Well, you'll have to explain what chinoiserie means.
I think it's one of those old school techniques where, everything is hand painted on silk, and then everything they do, these are such exclusive wallpapers that every single panel is hand painted. Very labor intensive. And obviously the founder, Mr. Floyd Digone, he's trying to revive these ancient techniques and keep them going. And it's absolutely amazing, the stuff they do.
Digone was all over the news last month probably because Sonam Kapoor
That's right.
showed her house in London.
In London, she's done one of her rooms in Digone. And not just that, I think 2 years ago, now that we are really into the brand, we know more about it. 2 years ago, they were all over the papers here in London because when Annabelle's reopened its doors after
famous nightclub
after a massive refurbishment, the thing to do for socialites in London was to go to the Annabelle's bar or go to the Annabelle's ladies' room and take selfies. And it's, again, an extremely over-the-top, vibrant, signature Digone.
What do you mean for socialites? It's a thing to do for anyone.
Yeah, I suppose for anyone. So what I'm saying is, this week I made the acquaintance of Claude Digone, who heads up the business.
You mean he's the boss?
He's the boss. He travels all over the world, a delightful man. And since he's kept in touch with my father, and he keeps, sending him pictures of renovations that they're doing to my father's house, which I think is beautiful. Who does that, right? Once you've bought it, it's yours. And he's very keen to have old photographs of my father's family to hang in the apartment just to keep that sense of continuity going.
This just reminds me, wasn't the Chanel advert?
Yeah.
With Keira Knightley. They have Digone all over the back.
They had Digone all over. And, they've done palatial houses, actual palaces, not just palatial houses, but actual palaces. And so I went to meet him at their headquarters in Chelsea, and it was really a beautiful day. He showed me around. They were launching something new for London Design Week, and also they tied up with the Chelsea Flower Show. So there were flowers everywhere.
That's on this week, right now.
So it was a wonderful experience. What I want to talk about is the fact that houses change hands all the time. But for someone to respect your heritage when he hasn't been a part of it, for an Englishman in this case to respect my father's family heritage in Kolkata, and to keep that sense of continuity going by keeping in touch with my father, sending him photographs of his house, telling him that, look, we respect that your memories are embedded in these four walls. We're going to look after it, and it means a lot to us, and all of that. I think that's absolutely delightful.
Didn't you tell me that he's planning to buy a Haveli in Jaipur?
That's what he says his next project is. Now, they've got offices all over the world. They're massive in America. They're massive in Beirut, in China, all over the world. So he said that the next thing I want to do in India is buy a Haveli in Jodhpur, revive old Mewari techniques of art and put those onto wallpapers. And strange thing. Sometimes you admire a piece of art, but you don't really know, you're not really aware of what has gone into putting it up there. And he showed me this beautiful, very delicate flower pattern, which is there in the hallway, Digone hallway in Chelsea. And he said that, putting this together is a nightmare because they get painted in India, in their factory in Howrah, in Kolkata. Then they're sent across to China to get hand embroidered. Then they're brought back to India for them to put beautiful Swarovski crystals at strategic places.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much this roll of wallpaper costs.
Well, they say the average cost is about anything between £5,000 to £25,000 to do up one room.
You mean if you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it?
You can't afford it. That's how it is. But all of that, putting all of that to one side, I just love the fact that he's a man who respects our family heritage, and I love the fact that he's a man whose business is making such exquisitely beautiful stuff. So that was a very interesting day.
So you enjoyed yourself?
I did enjoy myself. We had a lovely lunch, and of course I got to know Mowgli, the dog who clearly is the boss of Digone. An absolutely adorable dog. And I could see why he's friends with my dad now. He loves to tell a good story, so does my father. He loves his dog. I remember Rocky, the Alsatian we had for so many years, was my father's heartbeat. And he loves his cup of tea. Again, another similarity with my dad. So there you go. You ended up going to some very exciting concerts.
I did, yes.
In the last couple of days.
First of all, we went to a Steve Hackett concert. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with Steve Hackett, because he left many years ago, there was this band, this posh schoolboys formed a band in the early 70s. And two of the band members have since left. One was called Peter Gabriel and one was Steve Hackett. So they've left. So the other three are still in the band. That would be Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford and Phil Collins. So the band is called Genesis. And a huge band around the world. But so Steve Hackett was playing the whole Genesis album from the 70s, one whole live album with his new band, whatever. And it was amazing to go and watch it live.
What would you call it? Prog rock?
Yeah, it's prog rock. Prog stands for progressive rock. You know, those long songs that go on for like 10, 15 minutes.
It was more your thing than mine, but I have to say I really enjoyed it. But looking at the people who were in the audience, people like us who were really keen to see what was going to happen on stage, I think that is when you can really see the passage of time. You realize how old you are.
Well, everyone was a Buddha Buddhi there.
Yeah.
That album is before my time, by the way. The album he played, the whole complete album, was called Seconds Out, which is from the 70s. But I know that album. I have that album. And I think the vocals on that album, it's like a best of. So there's some songs by Peter Gabriel, some songs by Phil Collins.
You know, normally when these big bands have a bust up and a few members leave and continue to do their own thing, regardless of whether or not they end up having a career as successful as solo artists, often you hear about these disputes, copyright disputes about who wrote the song and who composed the song and who's allowed to play it live and who's not.
You're going into Pink Floyd territory.
Yeah, so how is it that this man was able to replicate a Genesis
album? He did write
album?
a lot of the songs on that album at that time. And the famous one is Pink Floyd. Roger Waters and David Gilmour don't get on famously, but they have agreed to let each other sing the Pink Floyd songs, especially the songs they both wrote together.
Yeah. So that happens a lot with the Beatles as well, isn't it? There's certain songs that Paul McCartney wrote and therefore he can kind of roll them out anywhere. Or are the Beatles a fairly...
Well, I hate to break it to you, but two of them are no longer with us.
No, I know. But then they also went on to have solo careers, like John Lennon, Paul McCartney. The two of them had solo careers, didn't they? But, so that was prog rock was on the list. What else? I believe there was another...
So two different spectrums. So I saw one prog rock concert, and then one which is quite similar way. I saw the great Rahat Fateh Ali Khan. And in all his splendor and his pomp when he's doing those Qawwalis, those Sufi songs, so many Bollywood songs. And what was really strange was that there was this segment, which I thought, was right up your street, where he did Pakistani dramas. There's lots of songs from Pakistani dramas. Do you know the one I'm talking about? Something...
Khuda Aur Mohabbat Season 3?
Part 3, that's the one. So he sang that. Obviously, he's done the theme song, and the whole place erupted. And he did a couple of other ones. And talking about Pakistani dramas, aren't you very partial to them?
I am. Before I speak about Pakistani dramas, they say that being at a Rahat concert is almost like watching the Rolling Stones on stage. It is a theatre spectacle, is it? It is as much about the songs as it is about the lights and the stage.
You're right.
And
There's the graphics, then there's the intense vocals, the jugalbandi happening,
the qawwalis that happen for like 12, 13, 14 minutes, things that you don't often enjoy on radio because they're
live is always live, no matter what you do, wherever you are.
So speaking about Pakistani dramas, I've taken this time off, this sabbatical, 3 months, to really get into a few dramas that I earlier never had time for. I've always been partial to Pakistani dramas. We've spoken about Dhoop Kinare and Tanhaiyan so many times on this podcast. But there's one particular drama that I'm watching right now, which I believe is one of the most popular dramas going, which is Hum Kahan Ke Sacche The, which I'm really, really into. It is Mahira Khan's return to the small screen, as it were, after 6 years. It also stars Kubra Khan and Usman Mukhtar. It is based on a novel by Umaira Ahmed, and the novel is a very dark novel. I'm loving the fact that people are now willing to shower a lot of love and attention on works of art, on pieces of drama that don't follow your conventional stereotype. Everyone has shades of grey. There are 3 protagonists, there are 3 cousins, it's their story. Everyone has shades of grey. You can defend virtually all the characters by saying that so-and-so is doing this because there's a backstory.
Is this one of those dramas that go on forever?
Because, I'm hoping.
I can't watch dramas that, you suddenly say 75 episodes over 3 years.
I'm hoping it's not going to be one of those. But we've only seen up to episode 9. But so far, I think it's progressing beautifully. There's not been a moment where you feel, it's dragging on, I wish they'd move on. Mahira Khan, of course, is an exceptional actress, and so the entire ensemble cast.
I was saying, talk about Mahira Khan. I only know so much about Mahira Khan because I've seen so many photographs of you with her. Weren't you at Twitter headquarters with her
We
once?
were. I got to interview her soon after she did Superstar, and she was part of a mental health charity that she was championing, which is...
And isn't it like 10 years of Humsafar?
It is 10 years of Humsafar as well.
Which I know she was in.
Yeah, that was her first big moment.
Who was she in it with?
Fawad Khan. So Mahira and Fawad became overnight superstars, not just in Pakistan, but also in India, which led to their very short careers in Bollywood as well, both for Fawad and for Mahira. So yes, 10 years of Humsafar, but Hum Kahan Ke Sacche The, I'm absolutely loving it. It's directed by Farooq Rind, who's again, they call him Dada, who's again another director who's meant to be very realistic, A lot of people talk about the big difference between Asian dramas and Western dramas. So these actors say, and India में भी यही कहते हैं कि हमारे ड्रामे में वो typical like Ekta Kapoor dramas, close-ups, and everybody standing and delivering a monologue, and that is meant to be the highlight of that episode. Whereas if you see in Western dramas, things are a lot more natural. Nobody is standing in one place and delivering a dialogue. They're constantly moving around as you would in life, right? You're moving, you're turning, you're not always looking your best, you're looking natural. And I think there are certain directors in India and Pakistan who belong to that school of filmmaking. Farooq Rind is one of them. And that's why everybody talks about how realistic it looks. They talk about Mahira Khan possibly being the first actress who, in hair and makeup, kept saying, I don't want makeup for this. Because the character is such that she's a plain Jane, but she has some very attractive qualities about her. And if she's in distress, if she's crying, she's not meant to be looking like $1,000,000, with rouge and blush and red lips and tears streaming down. That's not who she is. So I think a step towards realism in films and in dramas.
That's happening in Indian films as well.
Yeah.
A lot of these, and this is a quote from you, slice of life movies.
Yeah.
A lot of those realistic movies.
Yeah. They are
art type of movies.
They are the ones who are dominating the box office. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this more in our next episode, because a whole list of Bollywood films have just been published, and
That's
their release dates.
And they're all going to be theatrical
release.
Of course, by the time we do our next podcast, you and me would have seen the new Bond movie.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited about that as well.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about all of that. And by the time we do our next podcast, I will be back on air. So 3 months of sabbatical gone in the blink of an eye. But I've enjoyed every minute of it. And one thing that I started doing in the sabbatical, which I had not done before, was watch a few Pakistani dramas. Some of them I liked, some of them I felt were run-of-the-mill, so I gave up halfway. But Hum Kahan Ke Sacche The strongly recommended.
According to my friends, they're saying that the next big thing, what they're all watching right now, is Korean dramas on Netflix.
Korean dramas?
Yeah, South Korea dramas.
Oh, wow. See, that's what it is. Netflix, Amazon, they've really opened up the entire world to people, to discerning audiences who like. There is a niche for everyone. Everyone has a soft spot.
You and me have always been into subtitles.
Yeah.
We don't have that barrier that we can't watch subtitles.
Yeah.
But for many, as soon as the word subtitle appears, it puts them off.
Yeah.
So that's where the problem lies. Otherwise, I believe there's so many good South Indian, Tamil, Bengali, Gujarati movies.
Yeah.
That obviously we won't understand, but
we've seen. I think that's probably because in India, or maybe it's a personal thing, I don't know, because in India we used to really look forward to these film festivals where you would go and see the award-winning films in Malayalam, Tamil, Marathi, Bengali. I understand Bengali, you don't, but we know how many Bengali films you watched with me on Netflix, right?
So I get the gist.
Yeah, subtitles.
Ami Bengali Jamai, kintu ame Bengali bujina.
Yeah, well, almost there. But it is all about content. Content is king, and it's wonderful to see that the star system, the old star system, has taken a knock.
It is definitely fading.
Yeah.
Slowly, it's a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's you can tell that the TV stars are coming up now.
Yeah, and you can't just write your Bollywood stars off because they are Bollywood stars. I mean, you can't. Their past is their past, and they are who they are because of some work they've done which people have loved. Not saying that, but I think everyone needs to reinvent themselves now. That is the name of the game. That's it.
That's it. Shall we take everyone's leave?
I think we should. So until the next episode of the Shabby And Man podcast.
Bye-bye now. Take care.
See you soon.